Are you trying to extract part of a string? JavaScript has a couple of helper methods that you need to know about: Substring and Substr. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use each one and explain what the differences are.
Hey everybody, it's Chris Love, the owner of Love to Dev, and today I wanted to make a quick little tutorial video to show you how to extract substrings using JavaScript. Now there are three methods on the JavaScript string object that allow you to extract characters, and they all are based on a starting point and an optional ending point, but they all behave slightly differently. And if you go through here with me in this tutorial, you should kind of see where the strengths of each one lie, and that way you'll know at least better which one will probably meet your needs for your scenario best. And you're going to have all kinds of scenarios, I'm pretty sure, if you're getting into string manipulations. So what we'll do is we'll look at three different methods: the substring method, the substr method, and the slice method. Now I've got a list here in the blog post that tries to explain a little bit about how each one of them works and how they differ. Now the substring method is looking for the character index to start with and then a potential index point to stop. It doesn't allow you to specify a number of characters per se, but you do need to know the actual place to stop in your string. Now the substr method takes a starting character index, and then you can pass in the actual number of characters you want to extract. Again, that's optional. If you don't include these endpoints, it'll just go to the end of the string, which may also be what you want. Now the last method is slice, and again you're going to put in the starting index and then the end index, but it's going to work slightly different than the substring method, which we'll see here in a few minutes. Now I've got a little note right here on this particular one, just a little demonstration. You can put negative numbers into the slice method. Then here I've got a -3 and a -1, and that's basically going to start at the back of the string and go backwards. So the start index would be 3 characters from the end of the string, and the -1 would be just essentially the next to last character in the string based on a 0 index kind of thing. So you can see that this takes out the ES in the word test here, and that's what that will return. Now I've got some other notes on how these work, but I think it's more important to actually dig in and see how these work. What I'm going to do is I just got a kind of a random string that I created to demonstrate a flat record without delineators. And I've seen this, I don't know, at least a dozen times over my career, especially when dealing with older, more legacy data, legacy systems, especially when they export them. They don't necessarily export them with column or field delineators like a comma or a tab, which I much rather prefer than just a flat file that has a fixed width. Now a lot of old mainframe database type systems did work on this premise where a field had a fixed width of characters. And I haven't seen this as much as I did, say, 15, 20 years ago when I was upgrading older systems, but it's still there, and I still occasionally run into it. And I actually ran into it recently, which prompted me to write this blog post. Now, for our little simulation, the first 30 characters of our string are for the name field. And it's just going to be first and last name. I didn't get too fancy with it. And then I added a little E at the end to kind of serve as a tracer. So I'd have a little sanity check as to where this is. So basically, the first 30 characters reserved for the name, and then I just got kind of a sentence after it. That E is, quote, my tracer, so that I know that it's the 30th character. Now, if we just do source record and we do substring, it's down here somewhere. There it is. Nope, there it is. Nope. I swear it was here before. Tell you what we'll do. I will do this. We will go back to 30 and 0, and you can see it pulls out the entire field there. Now if I go back and change this to Substr, This is what I get for trying to use the shorthand there. You see you get the same thing, and if we do slice, we get the same thing. So up front, kind of looks like everything's the same, and they all work the same. Now, in this particular demonstration, the first characters of our string, or first field, if you will, that is true. But if we go back and we add an additional field to it, let's call this one city, and we're going to put that at position 30. I just want to verify that this is at position 30. So we'll have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's all right. So we are at position 30. So now we've changed our record. And what I want to do is go to source record and do in theory, what I'm trying to do is go from position 30 to position 20. Now, if we do that, we get an empty string. So what is happening here? Well, that's because our start index is greater than our end index. And so what this is telling Substring to do is essentially invert these. So what we are actually collecting is from this position backward, effectively, and that's what it's giving us. So we're telling it to go from position 30 to position 20. So we would get the exact same thing if we did this. I don't know why I did that, but there we go. That's effectively what it gets translated to in the substring method. So now if we do source record and we do, I know I just saw it, there we go. All right, this time we get the Dallas and the EV. I guess that's not 20 characters there, but that's okay. But you get the point. So Substr does return that value, and that's because we're telling it to start at position 30. If we go back over here to our definitions, tell it to start at character 30 and go for 20 characters. Okay, now, alrighty, now we're going to go to slice. I'm going to do the same exact thing with slice. And we can see this time we get an empty string. So what is going on with that? Well, effectively what we told it to do, if we go back over here to our definitions again, just to remind you, we told it to start at an index and then go to a certain end index. The problem is we told it to go to index 30 and then read to index 20, which is backwards, and the slice method doesn't support that, so it gives us an empty string. So how do we fix the slice method? Well, what we do is we tell it to do position 30 to position 50 because that's how far we want to go, and this time we get the correct record. Now, if we look down at the blog post, you can see that we will need to do something similar for the substring to make it work as well. So if we do substring, boom, there we go. We get our field. Now, just remember the slice and the substring both work off of indexes, but the big difference is that substring will allow you to effectively go backwards, whereas slice will not. Now, the Substr method allows you to say, I want to start at a certain index and go for a certain number of characters. So you could totally have a small, let's see, we could do that, and we get Dalla. All right, just for fun, let's do that. And we get negative because Substr doesn't support negative links. It always has to be positive, so remember that. So this is, there's a little difference between the three methods. They can all be useful to you. Honestly, I think part of it comes down to what works best for your mental model or your mental comprehension of what's going on. It could come down to what parameters are supplied to you by an API, things like that. But I think it's important that you know that you have three different options and they all serve different scenarios for you. And because they're essentially all native and give you that option to do it different ways, based on the essentially index and length values that you may have supplied to you or have calculated, you can just call one of these native options and not have to worry about doing some manipulations or calculations on your side, which can be very helpful and make your application work just a little faster and make it easier to maintain, which should be two of your primary goals. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. I know these three methods can cause some confusion to a lot of developers, and honestly, keeping them straight, not necessarily the easiest thing in the world because, like everything else, there's a lot of things that we as developers have to remember. So I hope this is going to be serving as a good reference. I'll have a link to the blog post in the video description below, and definitely if you think this is helpful, hit that like button. If you've got any questions about these, always feel free to leave those in the comments section below, and as always, please don't miss any great videos I've got coming up by hitting that subscribe button, and hopefully we'll help you out. Thanks a lot, and thanks for joining me and letting me have a little bit of your time today.